Welcome back to another episode of Two Girls, One Closet. I'm Deb, your closet designer, and I'm here with Andrea, your personal organizer. Hey, Dre.
Hello.
Today, we're here with a New York-based interior decorator, assemblage artist, fashion inspirer, and model, Patricia Fox. Patricia is renowned for her curated, colorful, head-to-toe, Purely Patricia personal style. A cultural commentator, she's a sought-after on-air talent and frequent subject for photographers and artists. A well-known artist called her a walking installation when he encountered Patricia walking her pink poodle in Central Park. Purely Patricia is the creator of her own destiny, living each day in full-blown self-expression. Hi, Patricia, welcome.
Hey, good morning, Deborah. Good morning, Andrea. How are the two girls?
We're great.
We're great. We're so happy to have you.
Well, this is my first podcast. I am so excited, and I got all dressed up for it. So I am excited to share, with you, whatever it is, and go on a journey of exploration, of transformation, self-expression, having fun, and being fully participating in your life, however that looks for you. I believe that's what we're discussing.
100%.
Appreciate that.
If it wasn't, is what we are now.
100%. And you look so fabulous. We cannot wait to show everyone some awesome photos and video of your gorgeous outfit. So stay tuned for that.
Well, yeah. I have to say to you girls that I am an assemblage artist, and I've had these 3 little projects sitting in my studio, and I want to thank you for inspiring me to actually assemble 3 little headpieces that I know this is audio, and I was going to change one from one to the other, but that's just insanity and purely Patricia. So thank you for being a part of my inspiration and my creativity.
Absolutely. And we're going to post all the things you made today on the Instagram so people can see it.
Okay, great.
So you and I met at the Mystery by Design event a couple years ago, and we started talking because you started out as a California Closets designer.
Not in my life. That's where I ended up after going through a relationship change. I said, what am I going to do next? And I looked in the newspaper when there were newspaper ads, and it said salesperson designer wanted. Well, I just sunk my teeth into that. And working for the California Closet Company was one of the greatest gifts at that time in my life. And I'm so grateful, not to mention how much I love their systems and its contribution to my own personal wardrobe all these years later.
It's amazing. So tell us about Purely Patricia. Who is she? Who's the brand? How did it start?
Well, Purely Patricia evolved in a very simple way, and I'm going to give you the short story of that. I'm a dressed up person. I get dressed up for my life and to go out into the world. I set my own mood, my own feeling, and as you know, designer clothes, people wear designer clothes. When you see famous models or magazine, who are you wearing? When you're on the Oscar carpet, who are you wearing? Who are you wearing? And Purely Patricia isn't wearing anybody, and I wasn't. And I would say, hey, one day this woman said, how do you put yourself together? I live in your neighborhood. I see you like almost every day. And she says, who puts you together? I said, excuse me, this is Purely Patricia.
I love it.
And a name was born, and now it has become a brand. And sometimes I'm actually in the street, like coming back from the dentist with a numb jaw, and somebody said, Purely Patricia. And I went, oh my God. I need a bus stop to hide behind. So people know me as Purely Patricia, actually globally.
That's so amazing. And I just love how just like being yourself can turn into such an amazing brand, and I think that's something sometimes people struggle with or companies struggle with. So I think that's really just such a great example.
Drea, that word struggle is very defeating. I look at it as a challenge. Challenges have a beginning and they have a solution. A struggle seems like almost impossible. So the times that we're living in the moment is a challenge. And how we choose to embrace it makes all the difference in our lives, how we're going to live them and what we're going to do every day.
Sure.
So I was curious, what was it like growing up for you? Is getting dressed up something that you did your whole life? Did you always, grow up playing like dress up or work using your imagination? What was that like?
Well, it's hard for you to imagine, but I grew up as a tomboy. I was the fastest runner in my school. I had a really short haircut. And I was very young, and that's how I was beginning. I wasn't exactly a doll player. And then as I grew up, there's a thing about in life either fitting in or belonging. And when I was in school, I wanted to fit in. And so I wore clothes like the other girls wore for the most part. Wasn't particularly creative or comforting or comfortable. And then as I got into high school, and my mother, who was a very unique combination. Are you ready? Are you listening?
Yep.
I grew up with a mother. Her portrait actually is right behind me, who was at one point the Queen of England. So we had 2 English pugs. She was Jackie Kennedy. So we had tons of pillbox, little hats in the house. And then she was Elizabeth Taylor. And that, I would say, is my father's least famous role because she wanted real jewelry. And so I actually got to see my mother dressing up, and I fell in love with her wardrobe. And she had an entire room with racks and racks of clothes. And when she would go away on a vacation, I would get all dressed up in her clothes, and I'd walk around in my home. And then one day I wore some of her things to school, where I spilled my school lunch all over her turtleneck, cashmere sweaters. So that was the end of that career. She wasn't too happy when she came home. I was just a kid, I had no way of getting to the dry cleaner. So that's just a little story.
I love that. So how do you manage your wardrobe and how do you store it? I know you live in New York City. Do you have a dressing room? Do you have reach-in closets? How do you store all your fabulous headpieces? Also, I have a lot of questions.
I know.
Educate us.
I know, and I helped you with a few of them. So, my career was in the world of skincare and makeup. I actually worked for Clinique and then Estee Lauder. And one day the CEO, I was already on my way, starting to express myself and to start to build a wardrobe to answer your question. And I'm going to make my my answers brief so that we can move along. And the CEO said, are you dressing for success or are you dressing for yourself? Now that's a really good question.
Wow.
And that moment I was about to get married, and in my little perky way, I was wearing Norma Kamali then, and Susan Bennett's worn. I was into like designer clothes, and I said I'm dressing for myself. And I guess you could sort of say that was the end of my career.
Beginning. I
had stop since it's amazing. I have no idea how I've supported myself all of these years. When you dance to your own tune and you're beating a drum that's really loud in your head when it comes to self-expression. So, what happened after that, I ended up across the street from a vintage clothing store, a little hole in the wall. It was sort of like an opium den, we would smoke a little pot and try on some chiffon dresses and play dress up. And I fainted and I went to heaven. And that was the beginning of my collection. And I still have some of the clothes from the best of everything. And so to answer your question, because I remember, Deborah, you wanted to know, I don't really store my clothes. I have always, the thing about having an extensive wardrobe is to keep it organized. And that's why I fell in love with a system where you can organize your clothes. And I do have a dressing room. I have a 2-bedroom apartment in New York City near Central Park. And I turned the 2nd bedroom into a dressing room with a little chaise. And I have ceiling to floor shelving with drawers, plastic drawers that come out with all of my shoes and a lot of my accessories in it. And when I designed that closet, I put a little pole 12 inches off of the floor. And, you know, one of you girls called me and said, you know, you made a mistake. You can't hang anything on a 12-inch pole from the floor. But the way that I keep my clothing organized is when there's an empty hanger, I take it and I put it on that pole. And so my wardrobe is very organized, and it's the palette, you know, for my art. You mentioned in your introduction that I'm a walking installation, and you know, that's how I feel. You need to be able to be organized. I can't remember all of the beautiful things that I have, and I never know what's going to go with what. And so I pull it just like an artist chooses his colors from a palette. That's what my dressing room is to me.
That is such a great tip. And I love that you used the analogy as an artist. And I think that will help so many people. And I know as an organizer, I help color code closets a lot. And I think that definitely helps people save a lot of time and also just stress when you're getting ready.
You know, when you say, Drea, that color coded, my wardrobe is in part, I don't organize it that way. I have all my sequins and rhinestones and beaded tops, which are short. And then I have crinolines, which I store now with pantyhose. I fold them, and then I take my torn pantyhose. I don't wear pantyhose. I'm just using an example. They're thigh highs. And I wrap up my crinolines and I put them on a shelf. And then I have my long skirts, and, you know, so it's sort of, and then medium dresses and dressy things organized that way.
So categorized. That's great.
Yes, categorized is a better way to describe it.
How often?
Sorry, go ahead.
Just going spinning off of this.
Fighting. Next question next.
Just spinning off of that, how often do you ever like edit your wardrobe?
I do edit my wardrobe. Things either wear out. I am going to share with you, I have not outgrown any of my clothes. I can still fit into things that I had when I was 16 years old. So we're not going. However, I edit out things when I used to dress very vintagey, and I actually had somebody come up to me when I was sitting in a restaurant, all of these kids, and they were practically sitting on my lap. And I said, excuse me, you know, I'm having dinner with my boyfriend. And they said, excuse me, Miss Seymour. They thought I was Jane Seymour. And I realized that I look like Jane Seymour in a movie. And I outgrew that look. I am no longer a head to toe vintage person. I kind of mix and match. And so the things that make me look like a Victorian woman, although I do love my parasols to protect my skin, and I have a big collection of those, I do edit out things that are no longer, and I don't have that rule if you haven't worn it in a year. When you own valuable things, you never know when that one moment is going to come, and you're going to think of that Chiquita banana dress that you thought you were never going to wear again, and you need it. So I'm careful editing. Great question, by the way.
What's your process for getting ready to every morning? Like, what do you do first? Do you plan your outfit the night before, depending on what you have planned?
All right. For everybody who's listening, I don't know about you. I have no idea how I'm going to wake up. So, I mean, I could go to bed feeling on top of the world, and then I could get out of bed and I have to dust myself off and pull up my thigh highs and put on my rhinestone boots and set my frame of mind to go out into the world. So I'll tell you I like that question, because I get dressed, and this is going to sound a little complicated. I have a very strong sense of knowing who I am. I know what makes me feel good. And depending on what the weather is like, if it's gray and dreary, you can rest assured I'm going to be wearing bright clothes to brighten up other people's lives. And when they see me walking down in a gray background and everybody else is in black, gray, and beige, they'll see me coming. So that's one thing. It depends on where I'm going, what I'm doing, and who I'm going to see. But the one thing that's constant is I always show up as myself, Purely Patricia. I'm not concerned about how that interviewer is going. I'm often surprised when people know they're going to meet me and they haven't made some small little effort of some sort. And their first reaction is, oh, I feel like I should have gotten dressed up more, or I didn't wear enough makeup. And so I've come to learn to understand, and I'm very careful about this. When you go out into the world and you look like I do, which is a dressed up person dressed for my life, you can't be a bitch. You can't act that way. That out, don't. It's true. So I make a concerted effort to invite people into my world and to support them in being comfortable in my company by reassuring them in some way, shape, or form, usually complimenting and finding that one thing about them that they can identify and resonate with, that they know that they're okay to be with me. I am not a pretentious person, and people have a tendency to make things up about me based on the way that I look. And a really good example, if I may, is that when I walk in the street, I don't pay attention to it very often. I don't notice it. But my partner, who I'm walking in the street with, he says, those people turned around and took your picture, and that woman was poking her husband to take a look, and he tried not to look, and then I said it's okay to look, and then there are the little kids on the street, and the mother will say, hey, it's not polite to stare. And I said, it's a really great thing that your child is aware and observing and staring at me, because I look a little different to that child, and I wanted it to thank him. And usually I'll stoop down and talk to that child. That's what my life is really all about. It's interaction with people that I invite into my world, and it makes it a lot easier when you're dressed and people have an opportunity to come up to you, which happens to me very, very often. I mean, if people want to take my photograph, sometimes I don't consider myself to be a celebrity, but I do know that I inspire other people walking in the street and bring them joy. And when, the bus driver sticks his hand out of his window and gives you a thumbs up, I know I'm having a successful day.
That's amazing. And it leads me to what I wanted to ask you too is, do you think that style is something that is innate, or do you think it's something that people can learn?
That's a great question. The difference between style, everybody has a style. It's discovering what that is. Style refers to how you feel and present yourself to the world. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to feel comfortable wearing a huge blue flower on their head like I am in this moment. So stay tuned. I just created curiosity. We're going to take a picture of this blue flower on my head. And so style is innate for me. It clearly is something that is a common thread through my entire life. For example, when people walk into my home where I live, the first comment is, oh my God, it's exactly the way I knew it was going to be. I mean, so it's not lucite, plain white polished walls, and everything is displayed. I do things with a feeling. And if people care about how they look and feel, then speaking to somebody like an organizer or somebody that can bring attention to their wardrobes and actually kind of say, this is something you should try and experiment with and develop a sense of style if you care. If you don't care and you want to blend into the rest of your environment, then I see people on the street, I think they actually spoke to each other. They were all wearing khaki pants, a white t-shirt, some Nike sneakers, some white ankle socks, and a brown belt. And it's 4 guys walking in front of me, and none of them know each other. It's like, I think to myself, did they talk to each other this morning? But no, they're in a uniform, and so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to speak for Andrea and myself that we have a lot of clients who are bored with their wardrobes. And, when Andrea sifts through their clothes and reorganizes, a lot of her clients have the same shirt either in 5 different colors, or they have it in the same color 5 different times and didn't realize it. You know, for people who, what tips can you give people to tap in and develop their own personal style?
Well, I know one thing that people have that is a staple that I don't own, and that's black pants. I see so many people wearing black pants. It's just, even the fashion people, you know, it's amazing. And then in the summer, everybody's wearing tight white jeans, and I'm envious. I want to be like those girls, but then I'm not. You know, uh, so I know what you're talking about. You know, I don't know if they're telling you that they're bored with their wardrobe. If they are, they can literally experiment. The easiest way is to mix and match the things they already own, that they ordinarily wouldn't have worn together. I'm being practical. I'm giving you practical advice. I'm not suggesting that anybody go out and start shopping for a floral print shirt. That's not happening in this conversation. I wouldn't even suggest it. But everybody can look at their wardrobes and take that red shirt and wear it with the white pants rather than the red shirt with the black pants. You know, just mix and match the things you already own and see what you kind of get a kick out of. You know, the greatest thing that happens to me, which is a gift, is that when I'm getting dressed, I don't really look in the mirror. I never hold anything up. I'm never in doubt. I put myself together. I look at them in the mirror before. Oh, I say, you should look in the mirror before you leave the house. So I go and look in the mirror, and I'm like shocked. I go, Patricia, what were you thinking? And then, you know, it's a great gift to amaze yourself. I mean, I have no idea what I was thinking, except that everything that I wore, I sort of like my wardrobe, I could throw it up in the air. And as you know, my tagline is nothing matches and everything goes. So that's a win-win. You know, if I take the word match out of everybody's wardrobe in their minds and say, you know, nothing matches and everything goes, you know, you can really have some fun if you take that attitude. As a matter of fact, I think everybody should write that down and put it on their mirror and say nothing matches and everything goes, and you'll see, you'll be a lot happier. No?
No, I agree.
Yeah. And I also think it will make people just have more fun shopping. I think there's this, sometimes I think people are leaning towards, I need less, so I need to be more strategic with shopping and not just buy things off a whim, or it's like following what you really, really love and then being able to create outfits out of that. Do you have any shopping tips for people?
Don't listen to the salesperson that you're asking likes whether it fits you or whether it looks good on you. Oh my goodness. I'm in stores sometimes and a woman will be saying, does this look good on me? And I'm like, no. And the salesperson said, yes. And I'm like, oh my God, I cringe. Shopping, I'm not a shopper. And so my wardrobe is sophisticated enough at this particular point in time that something has to be really, really special. And that's not all that often. And yet when I find those sparkly shoes and I put them on and I'm dancing in the store, I know it's a good thing. You know, when you go shopping, some people shop out of boredom. Some people shop because it's an addiction and they want to fill some other need. And other people are shopping because they have that wardrobe at home that's unfulfilling, you know, what we were talking about. And my suggestion is when I used to like shop like in the department stores, and I still go to them, and I look for the sales and for the things that people don't want, other people don't want. Those are the things that I want, you know. And when you're shopping, kind of mosey around. You know, just keep looking and see what kind of touch things, hold things up, put it back, and then you'll start to see that it will be revealed that in all of the stores are the same things, and the things that you start seeing over and over again are the things that you really don't need or shouldn't buy. And then go back and say, you know, I really need a fabulous white blouse. You know, I had that recently. I needed a fabulous white blouse. I don't need 10 white blouses. I needed that one fabulous ruffled white blouse that I could wear with a crinoline. I could wear with a black straight pencil skirt. I could wear underneath a jacket. I could just wear it by itself with jeans. So you don't need a lot. You need special. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
100% for me.
I love
yeah.
that. Yeah, I think like when you're a child growing up, like we all had more fun getting ready for school and like throwing on pants that are one color, a shirt that's another, and my rhinestone Keds and a bright purple backpack. And then you're told, maybe your mother's telling you, you know, that doesn't really go together. What are people going to think at school? And then that's when it started. That's like when it starts, and that's when people start like really, I feel like, worrying about what people are thinking about them. And then if we can all just get back to that childhood state where we actually liked getting ready and like putting on fun things that might not have gone together, air quotes for anyone who can't see me, but like if we can all get back to that state and not follow maybe these random influencers on Instagram telling like teenagers what they should and should not be wearing, everybody would probably have way more fun getting ready for the day, for sure.
You know, Deborah, that's a great, great observation. And I believe there isn't a listener on your podcast that doesn't identify with that. So good for you. What it brings to my mind, being who I am, that nobody has the right to judge, to criticize, or to find fault with a person that they don't know, that they make stuff up about, or to make that person feel less than by sharing what they think. You know, it's actually mean-spirited.
Mhm.
And so I believe that when we go into the world, depending on who our interactions are with others, we either bring them joy or we try to make them less than and take away their happiness. And I don't really pay attention to those people. I know that when we had a private conversation, you said, well, Patricia, you know, how does it feel to go out in the world and be, you know, I'm a real person with, you know, I'm sensitive and I have feelings. And, you know, I believe, and I am repeating what people have said to me, you know, I have an Instagram with a lot of followers, and, you know, I bring great joy and happiness, and that's what I focus on. You know, you can listen to 10 people who love and adore you and then not pay attention to that one person who says, I don't know why you have to dress up like that, you know, nobody else is dressed up. And I look at those people, I don't really have much of a choice. I don't choose to look like that. You know, I embrace the person, you know, who I really worked over a lifetime to create and to embrace and to feel secure about. You know, other people don't matter, you know, and I think we're all witnessing that now. You know who your real friends are, who's showing up, who loves and adores you and supports you no matter what. And those are the people that I choose to be with. I go what I say as I go where it's warm.
How are you keeping life moving forward and planning a future given the current situation?
You know, the greatest, I believe that at the moment is to live in the moment, you know, and knowing that there's going to be a different moment in the future. And circumstances, which I'm not going to, you know, it's not around our discussion. Everybody pretty much knows that today is April 21st, and we're in the middle of an unusual situation. I mean, I've been isolated for 6 weeks, and I want to thank you both for the opportunity to put some makeup on and know that, you know, I'm here. And about a week ago, I woke up very tearful. You know, and I woke up tearful because I was missing myself. I was missing me. And it wasn't, you know, I live with a boyfriend now. I mean, we were living together apart. Now, like, we're living together. And he came home one night from work and he said to me, you know, Patricia, I want you to know how much I appreciate and admire the fact that I still don't know who I'm going to come home to and what I'm going to see. And that's because, you know, one night I decided I was going to learn how to use rollers. So he came home to all these bright, colorful rollers and with lipstick and some blusher. And, you know, I'm in this moment, and this moment becomes our future. And I'm remembering that it's important to eat well. You know, I'm exercising reasonably, consistently. And I'm reaching out to friends, and I'm being supportive and loving and caring. And my most important tribute that I like to share with people is kindness. And so I am also planning your podcast was a great gift. It's connecting me to the world here, and I'm really grateful for the both of you. I was on the cover of a magazine recently, which I didn't know I was going to be, and I'm redoing my website, Purely Patricia, so that it reflects a lot of what we're talking about today. And so I learned a really great lesson from my dad. He taught me at a very early age. He said, Patricia, the thing about life is always making plans that you can look forward to in your future. So whether they materialize today is not the important thing. It's that they will materialize, one day at a time as we move towards them.
I'm going to say that you mentioned magazine covers. You've also been on a billboard in Times Square, which is huge. That's huge.
Yes, I had to hear from my ex-husband who was going to a Broadway show. Hey, I know this sounds crazy. We haven't spoken, but are you on a billboard in Times Square?
So funny. You also closed a fashion show on Consa wearing a dress made out of balloons.
Yes.
And you were featured in the FIT College magazine Blush. And you're on Barstool's Pizza Challenge. You have a wide range of projects. What are you going to be working on when we're allowed to go outside?
Well, I can't answer that question,
Okay.
because that's my life. I am the creator of my own destiny. And if you stay at home and you live in a shell, then nothing is going to happen to you. But I do want to shout out to two people. One is Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports Reviews. It's the Barstool Sports Reviews, Pizza Reviews, Purely Patricia on the Pizza Reviews. Little provocative, little racy.
I saw.
And I love Dave's followers because, they are from a different world, but I've embraced them and they've embraced me. I'm very careful to hide the fact that I'm not exactly sure the difference between a baseball team, a football team, and a basketball team and a hockey team. But, it doesn't matter. We cross that line. Dave and I have great charisma together. I love that. So he's like so much fun. And I love the pizza reviews, And then I want to give a shout out to Molly Balloons. Molly Balloons is a 24-year-old entrepreneur. She started her balloon business when she was 15 years old, and she found me on my Instagram, and we were communicating for 2 years. And she called me and she said, Patricia, if we fly you out and put you up in a hotel, will you close our balloon fashion show? And I have to tell you, I had, one of the great things, I'm not in my 20s, I'm a year older maybe than the two of you. And to hang out with 23, 24, 30-year-olds was one of the greatest gifts, that I was able to transcend. My spirit is timeless, and therefore my age doesn't matter. And the other thing is that I totally embrace dressing age inappropriately. I mean, how much fun is that? I would say everybody go home and look in your closets or your wardrobes and pick out something that you think you would never wear. If I don't leave you with any messages after this podcast, go home, have fun, be who you're not, and see who you become.
I have a new challenge for us. I think after we record this, that Deb and I should go ahead and do that. And we will put some pieces together that we've never thought about doing before and post our outfits. So
I would love that. I would like to be the judge and choose the winner of the Two Girls, One Closet contest. That you cannot, and the rule was, some of the rules are you cannot go out and buy something. You need to wear something that you haven't worn in ages because you were thinking other people would think that it looked whatever. And I think that's a wonderful, I'm like, if you could see me jumping up and down, you're clapping and I'm jumping up.
I'm just thinking what I have. Everything I own is pretty much black. So I'm going to try and whip something up.
Challenge, not struggle, challenge accepted.
Yes, challenge accepted.
You're not wearing a black top right now. You can
Well, I'm
do.
wearing green. I know. I'll see what's in my closet. I'll put something
Excuse
together.
me. Hey, you're the leader of the challenge. You know, the other thing
Yes.
about, let's talk, shall we discuss black for a minute?
Yeah.
Black,
Yes.
black is a wonderful backdrop for accessories. So, you know, you could take a throw. You know, my friend David Santiago, who you interviewed a couple of weeks ago, sent me a throw. And his throw would make a wonderful shawl with a fabulous pin. You know, I invite you to explore the possibilities and to tap into your own creativity. And there's only 3 letters that this challenge is about. F-U-N.
Love it.
You got it. I'm in.
Amazing. I know. We're gonna work on this. Homework.
You're gonna lead 2 girls and a closet, 1 closet, 2 girls, 1 closet. I'm learning. I've said it a lot here. Blank, you
You're
know?
great. Yes. So where can people find you?
They can find me. I'm an interior decorator, not a designer. I'm a decorator and an artist, and I have a website called Patricia Fox Design. And I'm in the middle of refurbishing and changing purelypatricia.com also. But the place that you can really scroll down and scroll up is my Instagram. And I would love to invite you to leave a comment as a result of this podcast so that I know I wasn't just speaking to beautiful Deborah and Drea on my 12-inch iPod ad. And I would love to see your comments and invite you to ask some questions. And it's Purely Patricia is my Instagram handle. And for those of you that don't know how to spell Purely, which is hard to imagine, but there are people who don't, it's Purely Patricia.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much. And this is a perfect segue. So at the end of our episodes, we do a segment from Instagram questions that people send in to us for you. So our Instagram questions of the week for Purely Patricia. The first one is, how do you differentiate between style, fashion, and costume?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. It's not, so for me, it's fashion is something that's dictated to people. And costume is definitely more dramatic in terms of the theater and staging. And style is, as you know, something that we have an experience for ourselves internally. So I would say that for me, my style is a combination of fashion, which I may find something new and refreshing from what designers are showing today. It's really important to be respectful of that. And then the costume aspect of it is the drama of putting accessories in. So, and costume in the traditional sense is usually much, much bigger in scale than fashion. And fashion is dictated by other people who, in my opinion, are really spending a lot of overtime trying to be creative and create things that nobody in their right mind would ever wear. I mean, I wore a skirt by a designer once to a movie and I knocked over boxes of popcorn. I mean, that was expensive.
So tell us your favorite fashion story.
One of my favorite fashion stories, and this is, I'm just saying what came to mind that we've referred to in this conversation. Years ago, when I was wearing a lot of vintage clothing that we talked about, I was head to toe vintage clothing. I was very young at the time. And this woman, actually an African-American mother and her young son were walking up the street. And she came up to me and she says, my son would like to ask you a question. And I said, sure. He was adorable, all dressed up with a white shirt, a little bow tie. And he said to me, he said, are you young or are you old? He says, I can't tell, but you sure are pretty.
Aww.
And you know, I understood, if you think about me walking in the street through a child's view and eyes, seeing me in antique old clothing and being a young person. I mean, I love that story. It really captures my essence. I want you both to know that I am so honored and I feel so privileged to support the both of you on this journey that you are venturing on of a podcast, and to be a guest on it early on in your experience. I can't wait to see how it unfolds. And I know that the two of you are going to be very, very successful. And I am so grateful to have been a part of it. And this experience for me in isolation has been beyond joyful. So thank you for the gift of the both of you, and congratulations to Two Girls, One Closet. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being
Patricia.
our guest. And that is a wrap for another episode of the Two Girls, One Closet podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, share with your friends, and we will be back again next week.
How do we subscribe to your podcast? Where do we find you?
So when you download a podcast we're on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, soon to be Pandora. But when you download the episode, it does give you a section where you can hit subscribe so that every week you automatically get the new download of the episode. And you can also leave a review on there too.
Well, I'm a fan. Thank you. And that's a wrap.
Yay, that's a wrap.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much. We'll see you again soon.